Throughout the years, Dokkan has had many outstanding releases, but as time passes, even easy A's can become too weak to carry a unit. In this video, I want to talk about units that lasted a very long time, but unfortunately reached a state where they cannot be used in endgame content anymore. All of these units dominated the meta at one point, and I just want to give them one final send-off until Dokkan decides to either give them a super easy A or even a normal easy A. Number 10 is a unit that will probably never get a super easy A, but definitely will be remembered for a long time as the best side banner unit of all time. Teq God Goku. He is one of the most ahead of their time units we've ever gotten. He had rainbow orb changing and 77% damage reduction against movie bosses. He already lasted a long time before he got his easy A, but once he got his easy A in 2022, it gave him a crazy second win that essentially brought him all the way into 2024. He had a very simple but useful kit that allowed him to be a very useful unit against movie bosses and pure Saiyan. But now we're in 2025 and events are harder than ever, and 77% damage reduction with a few stats is not enough to survive. Maybe beside SSJ3 Goku he could still work, but I doubt it. The rest of his kit isn't enough anymore, since not only do units have crazy defense now, but they also have to hit hard, and I don't think this Goku can get over 15 million attack in the best scenario, so unfortunately his time has come. But he will be remembered as the best side banner unit of all time, and unless Dokkan decides that side banner units can get super easy A's, I think 2024 was his retirement tour. Also, please subscribe if you're new and like the video to help me get into the algorithm. Moving on to number 9, I've got a dual spot because you can't really have one without the other, and that is the 5th anniversary easy A's, Vegito and Gogeta. These two were incredibly dominant on release and when they got their easy A's. Unfortunately, their dodge or die setup was not viable in endgame content. Nowadays, even their damage is lacking, but when they were in their prime, bosses would be terrified of how much damage was about to hit them if these two were both transformed and on rotation together. These two have been out of the spotlight for a while now, but I think they deserve to be here since dodge canceling fights and position locking is the true nail in the coffin for them. They were definitely amazing on release and satisfied the community's desire for a Vegito Blue and a Gogeta Blue celebration. I really miss using these two and seeing their amazing animations. Number 8 goes to Orange Piccolo. I have no idea when he's going to get an easy A or if he's even going to get one, but this guy was the king of hard content and turned Red Zone Broly into a joke. He then proceeded to victimize every boss in the game for essentially the next 2 years and even had usage in 2024 thanks to the Beast Gohan unit's super attack. Orange Piccolo is one of the longest lasting units in the game and was on every team for a reason. He had a near perfect kit for any type of hard content in the game, and if he ever gets an easy A, he will no doubt be a top unit again. But for now, it's time to say goodbye since events are getting a bit too hard for his kit nowadays. Next up, we've got number 7. This spot goes to LR Bulma. She was the best support in her era and carried the Earthbred Fighters team along with Piccolo. She had a bit of a resurgence during the worldwide download celebration this year since Power of Wishes was back on the menu, but once again with the recent events, she would not be able to hold up. Units like Daima Vegeta have shown us that 70% damage reduction with stats alone is not enough, and sadly Bulma's guard ends by the time her damage reduction fully builds up. She's a very well designed unit, but was made during an era where balancing units like this was fair and necessary, so losing guard was not the biggest loss back then, but now it's like a punch in the gut for defensive units, especially in long events that last longer than 10 turns, all while the boss is only getting stronger. Bulma was a top unit for a long time, and if they ever easy A her, they really don't have to do much besides give her permanent guard and maybe start her with 10% damage reduction while boosting her support very slightly. This was a very beloved unit and was a lot of fun to use, especially with her insane active skill that changed the whole field of orbs to STR orbs. The animations were also super unique and fun to watch. For number 6, we've got one of the forefathers of defense, and it is Int LR Trunks and Vegeta. According to my calculations, their ECA will be in over 2 years, so for now, I think it might be time to say goodbye to them. This duo was surprisingly controversial in release because people thought they were so good it would make the game boring. I've never seen anyone be mad that a unit is good, but here we are. This unit was a major key to success when facing Cell Max and actually led the God Goku I mentioned initially. Trunks and Vegeta were incredibly powerful and well designed for when they were released, with guard, additionals, crits, stacking, attack and defense on Ultra Supers, and defense when getting hit. Having guaranteed guard and stats in slot 1 made them even more useful since they were essentially the best defensive unit in the game for a while. Their active is also really solid and supports allies with an extra 20% defense for the turn. Number 5 is going to be a controversial one, but sadly AGL Super Vegito is just too much of a liability with his super easy A being so limited. He's still a solid unit, but there's far better and safer options for the new Teq Vegito team. He can put out some great damage, but if he gets supered in newer events, it's over for him. And unfortunately, unless he gets some type of support unit like SSJ4 Goku, I think it's okay to say that most people are going to put him back in the vault even after his Super EZA. Maybe with the help of a scouter or future unit with a scouter built into their kit, he can make a return, but sadly I think the days of AGL Vegito domination are far gone. And don't say I'm being too quick to say this, because I was this unit's #1 fan back in the day when he initially came out. Dude made the Dokkan event grinds actually doable and less tedious. I miss Vegito being a good unit, but I definitely don't miss the Dokkan Dark Ages. Awakening one unit used to take a whole day or two unless you use stones to refresh stamina and revive yourself. Also, if you're enjoying the video and made it this far, please consider subscribing. We are super close to 10k. Anyways, at number 4 we've got SSJ3 Goku. No, not the STR one, or the TUR, or the physical one, or the int one, or the tech one. Even if he's kind of washed, he could still get a Super EZA. I'm talking about the old AGL SSJ3 Dragon Fist Goku. I remember thinking his animations were the best in the game when he first released. Still a solid animation for the time he was released. It's a shame this unit has fallen so far. He got a Super EZA that aged out pretty quick for a 2024 unit. He's a slot 1 design unit, but unfortunately is kind of dodge or die, and he only has 60% dodge before attacking, which drops down to 30 post attack. He can get up to over 1,000,000 defense, but with no guard or damage reduction, we all know how that will end in the current meta. It's unfortunate to see him laid to rest again after a solid return, but that's just how the cookie crumbles in Dokkan. Most of the Super EZAs haven't been that insane where they stick around for a long time, besides a select few like Perfect Cell, Buhan, Broly, Gogeta, maybe Janemba depending on how things go, and full power Frieza. Well, now that I wrote them down, it seems like it's the opposite. Seems like only kind of some of them suck. Number 3 is merged Zamasu and STR Gohan, two of the best defensive LRs in the game on release who lasted well into the next year thanks to most of the events being short enough for their damage reduction to last for most of the fight. Gohan also had the help of Earthbred Fighters and Beast Gohan since those teams were top 5 in the game at the time. Zamasu also carried super bosses on his back for a long time, but that team eventually gave out even with the help of Cell Max. Merged Zamasu was incredibly useful with his immortal domain and amazing defense that lasted throughout most of the fight at that point. Unfortunately, stat boost or not, these two have reached their limits, and I think it's time to say goodbye. Gohan was so good on release, I basically used pity to get him. I knew I had to get him, and I'm sad that now he's gonna sit in my box rainbowed until he gets an EZA in like 3 to 4 years. Same thing for Zamasu, except I've got like 4 extra copies past rainbow with him, so it's even worse. Moving on to number 2, I want to talk about my GOAT, the best TUR of 2023 in my opinion, Teq World Tournament Goku. This guy was perfect in every way. And I know I'm looking at it with rose-tinted glasses, but the only bad thing about this unit was that his revive was a bit hard to get off, which is almost a non-issue since GT Duo was your main revive at the time. And also with 50% chance to guard, you wouldn't know if he was guarding or not, since we didn't have the Dokkan UI update yet. This guy was so good since he could stack up to 1,000,000 defense with little effort, making him a top unit against Zamasu, not only for raw stats, but also his chance to nullify Ki Blast supers. Unfortunately, even with the knowledge of when he's not guarding, this unit probably can't take the 10 hits he needs to build up to 1,000,000, and there isn't an easy way for him to get revived anymore since the GT Duo is essentially out of the meta completely now too. So he's also missing out on those extra stats and supers. And last but not least, we've got the GOAT Teq Ultimate Gohan, the most broken unit in all of Dokkan. And now that he's got an EZA, he's good, but instantly got power crept to oblivion since a bunch of top units have permanent greatly stacking attack and defense with guard and higher stats, as well as more built-in additionals and better links and categories. So unfortunately, even though he paved the way for many of these units, he is the weakest of them all now and has many replacements that are better and easier to use. The main thing about this Gohan is that he needs to be slot 1 to get his big stat boost before attacking, but that stat boost just makes him average now, and without it, he's as weak as he was before the EZA. So unfortunately, I believe his time has come and he can officially retire as one of the GOATs of Dokkan. He was definitely one of the greats and super fun to use. I'm gonna genuinely miss him. Hopefully he gets a Super EZA one day, but I doubt it will be within 5 years, so don't get your hopes up if you're a Gohan fan. Regardless, I'm sure there will be many more amazing Gohans to use in the future. Anyways, did I miss any of your favorite units? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed, make sure to check out some of my other videos that should be on screen right now. Thanks for watching.